Hello, folks. I hope that you are having just the best day in your life today. And if not, it's going to be one of the top 10, top 20, top 25, top 26. Just a great day for you overall. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 1967 short story by Philip K. Dick called Faith of Our Fathers, which is in this collection that's a selected short stories of Philip K. Dick, which I will link to you in the comments below in case you want to pick it up and read it and peruse yourself with some of Philip K. Dick's stuff for you. Now, this is an unusual short story. It's written during the Vietnam War. It's written during New Wave in science fiction. And this short story feels like it's both of those sorts of things. It takes them both into sort of consideration. This is the first short story I've read, or novel for that matter, that I've read by Philip K. Dick that feels like it's a part of the British and New Wave that started Britain and would extend to places like America. So what do I mean when I say it's a part of the New Wave that started under people like Michael Moorcock in the 60s? Well, the New Wave of science fiction was basically this way of taking the genre of science fiction and turning it on its head, on redefining its forms, redefining its genre, and redefining its norms, if you will. You know, a lot of genre work has sort of expectations, norms, right? Different, you know, there are ways that you write a Western, there are ways that you write a horror story, there are ways that you write a fantasy story, there are ways that you write a romance, and these ways are different from each other, but they're very similar to each other within the genre. And there were ways of writing science fiction, but this kind of gave you new ways, different ways of approaching science fiction. And science fiction writing is definitely a key part of what's going on. And so you have this new wave. And so this is the first short story I've read by Philip K. Dick that feels like it's a part of the new wave of science fiction that's going on during the time. Why do I think it that way? Because it deals with a lot of new wave science fiction topics. Sex, drugs, God, philosophy, communism, and Vietnam. It deals with all those sorts of things. Philip K. Dick is said to have said of this story, in a review thereof, that this while he was writing this short story, it seemed like a good idea at the time to sort of annoy pretty much everybody who might be reading it, whatever assumptions that they're coming from, and whatever things that they're thinking. And he has since come to regret that view, and I'm only going to be giving it a 7 out of 10 because even Philip K. Dick says, yeah, this probably wasn't the best short story I've ever written because of that sort of thing. And I would agree to him as somebody coming to this story fresh from 2021. I do think it has, you know, some issues. It's an artifact of its time. Now, I also mentioned, in addition to this, you know, sounding like new waves, this also feels like it's set in the Vietnam War. How so? Well, remember, it's 1967. It's the height of the war, and anti-war protests are big in the counterculture. And so you have, which a lot of, you know, things that Philip K. Dick are writing for are a part of that counterculture, right? So one of the things that Philip K. Dick has is that this is set in Hanoi, which was in North Vietnam at the time. And our main character, our point of view character, is a Vietnamese communist. And this is set in the near future after communism has won the Cold War, and communists are everywhere. Everywhere. Which, again, is another sort of, well, what would happen if Vietnam won? What would have happened if you know, communists ended up winning the Cold War? And so this is set in a future world where that has happened. And again, one of our main characters is set in Vietnam. So we're going to be following along with this world. Now, while I was reading that, there were a few things here and there that reminded me of Blade Runner. Not the novel that it's been based off of, which I've reviewed for you, but the movie itself, particularly the first little bit where there's sort of a lot of CG squalor, but flashing lights and vendors that are flying about from place to place. That sort of a thing feels like it. So I was reminded while I was reading this short story of that. Now, this short story is a little bit in the long in the tooth. It's about 36 pages long, one of the longer short stories in his collection for you, and one of the longer short stories I've read from it. And I actually read it across 2 days. It took me a little over an hour for me to knock out. And I finished it yesterday. So our short story opens up, and our main point of view character, the Vietnamese person, is talking with a peddler as after coming back home from work. And this peddler is trying to peddle wares with him that are drugs, which is what the peddler sells. And the peddler is telling you about his drugs and about what he has, and various things that he has. And our point of view character says, "No thanks, I'm not interested," basically, and sends him off. But the peddler says, "Well, you have to buy from me." And our point of view character says, "Well, why do I have to buy from you?" He says, "Because I'm a veteran, and you have to buy from veterans. It's the law. If not, you'll go to jail." So he says, "Well, okay, I'll just buy that powder," and that powder isn't anything that will help him. That's for women. And then the peddler says, "Well, shouldn't you at least be buying something of value that you'll use?" And he says, "I don't care. The law doesn't say I have to buy something that's of use to me, just that I have to buy something from you." But eventually the peddler talks him into it, and he takes this drug that's supposed to help him out based on his sort of things. He's a bureaucrat in the system, and he's younger, but a higher level bureaucrat for Hanoi, and so he has like an office that's his, that he's one of the people that lead people in, even though he's younger. Or Xian is his name. So anyway, he buys it, and then he's watching a broadcast of and then he goes to work, and basically he is summoned to work, and he still hasn't ingested his powder yet. And at work, they tell him that there is a new school that is setting up camp over in the Americas, where there's a big number of dissidents. It's going to be set in California. It's going to be a school of about 2,000 who are going to teach over there. And they expect that there's going to be dissidents, and all the papers and the schoolwork is going to be sent through his office. And he is going to need to make sure that he can weed out the dissidents and the fakes from the real people that really truly believe in communism. So that's going to be his new role, which he doesn't like. And they give him an assignment, and the assignment is that they have 2 papers for him to read, and he needs to read them and figure out which one of them was written by a dissident and which one of them was written by a true to heart communist person. And he's not sure what he wants to do. So they let him take it home, and so that he can spend some time reading them at home. And then while then he takes, there is the evening night watching the television. He sees the director, the head of the state, talking and doing their like nightly talk that's required for all the people within the communist state to watch. And he's watching it. He name drops our point of view character, which is a bit of a surprise for our point of view character. And then our POV character decides to look at the drug because he's a little issue. So he looks at the drug that he bought earlier that day. It looks like snuff, and he's like, "I used to take snuff when I was a kid, so I know how to do it." So he takes this snuff, and he experiences a hallucination. And then a woman enters his apartment, Miss Lee, and she knows the peddler, the drugs, and she knows she's part of an organization that is trying to track down the truth of the master and find out who he is. And they gave him not a hallucination, but actually a dehallucinating agent, which will remove the hallucinations. She explains that there is, in the water, there is a drug that they give their citizens, which gives them false views and false beliefs and so she has exposed him to the truth of reality with this dehallucinating drug that they got from their Soviets. And the idea, she knows which of the papers is true, and she can tell him, and then after telling him, he'll be promoted and he won't die because he gave up the wrong paper. And then he'll meet with the guy who runs everything, and then he'll take the dehallucinogen again beforehand, so there won't be any drugs that will act and keep him hidden, so that he can find out who the supreme leader actually is, and then report it back to this group that's also interested. So that's kind of the deal, and he reluctantly agrees to do so. And that's the first probably third of the short story or so, roughly, for you all. I'll go ahead and link you to this book in the comments below. It's 1967. Some of Philip K. Dick's works have gone past their expiration date and are free online. I don't know if Faith of Our Fathers is or not, but if it is, I'll go ahead and link you to it, so that way you can read it for free. You won't have to buy the book, but we'll find out after looking it up on Wikisource. And then that's it. Have you read Faith of Our Fathers? What did you think of it? Did you agree or disagree with my take, or Philip K. Dick's take on the short story? I would be happy to engage with it further in the comments below. If you like this video, why not hit that subscribe button? There's going to be a lot more of these to follow in fantasy, science fiction, and horror. And finally, hey, I just want to thank you for taking some time out of your day and investing it and watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have a great day.